now for closing. Revenue was $356,000, with $200,000 coming from rent. What caused the financial issues? Why did the RCN apply? They didn't apply for the $90,000 federal relief, COVID relief. Why were the CN pensioners and archives removed? Did the loss of rental income destabilize the museum's sustainability? The railway station is a national historic site in Canada. Have there been any consultation on repurposing a national historic site? Now, P Assets was here. They signed a 5-year lease. The pensioners left the top of the building so they could move in with their 5-year lease. After 2 years, they're gone. They're gone up on the hill. What happened there? We know very little, but every time we peel back this onion, we find more and more problems and issues that are concerned to us as a democracy. You know, Genesis is supposed to take it over, but they're going to renovate it. What's the renovation cost? Genesis co-working is a great idea. I love the idea. There's 2 co-owners. One of them is Dave Lane, which is, you know, I started the Rural Development Association. They said you had to operate above perception of conflict. This is a direct conflict of interest. So I talked to one candidate counselor who told me it had been let bleed out. It used to be a first responder. That's a trigger for us because, you know, that means the patient could have been saved. So there's a lot of questions like that. And we need those answers before we can stand by and let this go through. You know, we don't want to fight, really. We want to sit down and repurpose and re-educate and make this work. And I hope you're standing here today, and I hope you all support that. Now I'm going to hand this over to JP, maybe? Yeah, JP is here.
He was torturing the pensioners for a long
He's going to say
time.
a few words. I guess I'll...
Remember that? My brother was helping out from the lead, Brother Mark.
Sorry, JP.
Yes, yeah. This guy here.
I know it's short notice, and I know everyone's very busy, and everyone's very busy, and not with the mic apparently, but I think we're also looking for coming out because this is such an important issue for not just residents of St. John's, but residents of Newfoundland and Labrador. I just want to throw out a few thank yous to people such as John Lennon, who helped organize this, Catherine Foley, people such as Daryl Steele, who has a YouTube channel called Exploring the Newfoundland Railway. He's had a petition through change.org, and it's almost at 5,000 signatures now, which I think is significant for something like this on such short notice. So thank you all to everyone. Like I say, I'm not a public speaker, so I'm just going to go by a few notes here. Well, the museum, it's an essential part of the city heritage in our province because, as we all know, the railway helped open up the interior. I mean, electricity, as far as I know, first came to the city of St. John's because the railway wanted to start the streetcar service. And as a condition, they wanted to have power for the city, so they built the Teddy Howard generating station, which Light and Power later took over. There's been a constant decline in the past 20 years in preserved railway heritage here. Like there used to be a museum in Pickett Park, there was railway cars there. Some of those were scrapped. Some of those, one of them actually was a coach that was cut in half and is on the back of the building here. So that was clever and good use of what would have been thrown to the dump. And inside, actually, one of the railway cars, the last Donning car built in Canada by Canadian Car and Family, I do believe, was at the museum in Pickett Park. It's now Clarendon. Clarendon Heritage Society has a great relationship with their community, with their council, and they took the motive and that Donning car. So cheers to them, and it just goes to show how communities and work together, we can do great things. And actually part of that railway display is in here, the Donning car display. The interior of that Donning car was removed, put in here. So the reason I'm bringing all that up is because this was supposed to be like a legacy project that's here for generations. I mean, there was another train display in Barring Park. The locomotive that's down there now actually, and a mail car. So that was moved from there and brought down to here. Also owned by the city, I might add. The caboose that was at that display at the old bowling place was scrapped. There was another car scrapped. The oldest surviving railway car in the province, the Avalon, was scrapped, sent to the dump. And so that was all moved here. And it goes to show just how much we've lost and how important this is to our railway and coastal boat culture. The Johnson Family Foundation, the reason this is all here is because of the Johnson Family Foundation and the CN pensioners and all the people of Newfoundland and Labrador that care about our heritage and stepped up. There are significant monies donated from the Johnson Family Foundation, charitable organizations, hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is a world-class building. It's a National Historic Site, and it's also on a list of Canadian railway station protection areas. So just to have this thrown away as like a happenstance and look at nuts without any consultation is atrocious, in my opinion. The Johnson Family Foundation, as you know, if you're in St. John's, it contributes so much to our local economy. Look at the Grand Concourse Authority, our hiking trails, and look at the controversy we have now also with this current city council who want to cut down trees and pave the Grand Concourse. So it's almost as if Johnson legacy doesn't matter, it's being wiped out. And I think that's very unfortunate because all these contributions wouldn't exist without them. And this disconnect with the residents of the city of St. John's and the province, quite frankly, because this affects Newfoundland and Labrador, is atrocious. And it's pretty shameful that we all need to be here doing this. But I thank you all for being here. Now, Councillor Maggie Burton, she was one of the few people that actually engaged with me regarding the issue. And I'm going to read what she said because it was rather frustrating to me. If I can find it. She's basically said that she doesn't see how the Railway Museum is relevant to the redevelopment or the success of the West End. Now, anybody that grew up in St. John's knows that the West End owes its existence to the railway. When this railway station was first here, this was all water. There was a trestle here. The old city dump was here. They started digging the pilings for the bridge here. They found all kinds of treasures. And you know all those houses on Craig Miller Avenue that are all squat together, really difficult to park? That was for the railway. Houses on Old Topsail Road, that was for the railway. So West End of St. John's, this building should be the epicenter of redevelopment and promotion of the West End. And
Well, Maggie Burton didn't
I
go to
also
the city.
think that speaks to
She's not from St. John's,
council
Maggie Burton.
and discussion with residents.
Clue.
Mayor Green, you know, the way he came out and just said he was excited about this new project, this new thing that he can't tell anybody about. Well, why can't you tell anybody about it? This is a public institution. It affects the taxpayers, it affects the people of Newfoundland and Labrador, and at the very least, if it's so good, why can't you tell us what's going on? Right? We have a building here that has 2 vacant floors up above. Lots of opportunities for businesses or anyone to come in here. Why do you need to tamper with the bottom floor? What is the need? And why wasn't anyone consulted? The CN Railway pensioners were not consulted, despite what he says. They found out, like everybody else did pretty much through the media. The Johnson Family Foundation, who put so much effort into this over the years, they found out, as a matter of fact, after. What is wrong with this council? What happened to openness, transparency in the city? You have these things like Happy City St. John's that are tweeting all the time about budget, this and that. We had consultation on things like roundabouts. There's lots of discussion about that. We all know how that went. But there was an open dialogue. Like, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to try. Nothing like this. All of a sudden, it's like closing, throwing out a $200,000 figure, which is ridiculous because it does not cost $200,000 to have funds available for COVID-19 to support heritage institutions, all kinds of institutions. And why hasn't that been considered? What efforts have been made by the council to revitalise this? Why haven't groups of pensioners been consulted? Why haven't Why hasn't there been any public debate and discussion? There's lots of ideas for this place, and it's just quite frankly awful what's going on. I'm going to go through my notes here because I'm going right off script. But sorry if I'm rambling, but this means a lot to me, and I'm sure it means a lot to everybody who's here. So. Well, Mayor Green, he's giving mixed messages. Like, he says that it's costing money, but then he says it's not just about money. It's about, repurposing or proper use of a public building. Fair enough. Why don't we have a say in it? We all pay their salaries. Why don't we have a say in it? Why were the pensioners, the CN pensioners, left out, thrown away? The pensioners used to come here and volunteer in the outreach community. They go talk to children, classes, connect between the last generation and a generation coming up. It's a great opportunity for people to be involved in their community. And the pensioners also contribute through the CN railroading charitable organization. Pensioners still, since they're not allowed to volunteer here, they're active in their communities, their churches, their choirs, they're still giving back. And the fact that the CN pensioners, this is all about, not consulted in any way, shape, or form, I think it's atrocious. It speaks to this council's just where are the people? Like, where are all, there's no councillors here, no one's speaking up, they're all going by the same statement that was released by the mayor. Where's the independence? Where are people speaking up and saying, okay, no, you're right, we're making a mistake, let's walk this back, let's listen. The Key Assets company that was in the top 2 floors, they had a 5-year lease, they left after 2, or a year and a half. What happened there? Were they drove out? What happened with that? This whole thing with the Genesis co-working. I did some research on Genesis, and quite frankly, what they do is a good idea. Like, I think for the top 2 floors of the building, it'd be great. You could have opportunities for small businesses and artists and community people that can't really get a proper place to gather. They could gather up here, And on the bottom you have a museum, so you have people, general public coming to and fro, and you have, upstairs you have this office. Why does the museum have to go? And that's one of the questions that isn't being answered. Why does this have to go? It doesn't have to go. And I'm going to wrap it up here because I'm just being long-winded. But the big thing here, for me, is there's no transparency. There's no discussion. We don't know what the city's putting here. It's such a great deal. What's going on? But why aren't we all being consulted? I mean, they could put the city archives were here, and the city archives left. They went to a new building on Terranova Road. The pensioners were here. They were moved to another city-owned building. So you had all these people under one umbrella, one building, being piecemealed out to different places. And they just need to answer some questions. Like, in this time of COVID-19, and we're recovering now, please God, coming up next year, we need every single attraction we can get here. We need every form of public engagement, connectivity, discussion of our heritage, everything. Like, this should not be going. This is ridiculous. And it's one of the top 25 things to do in St. John's by TripAdvisor. TripAdvisor is the gold standard for visitors. So anyway, thank you so much for being with me. I'm not a public speaker, but when you hear about something, as you all do, you have to suck it up and do the best you can. So thank you so much for coming out. Please, let's hold our city council and their elected officials accountable for their job. Thank you so much.
Keep it out of your way.
Okay, I represent the CN pensioners here in Newfoundland and also the National Secretary across Canada. You wouldn't believe the emails I'm getting from other CN locals across Canada to support us, saying it's not right to close a museum in your capital city. And they went on to explain about the ones in Toronto, Edmonton, Calgary, the list goes on and on. We were on this building, and the reason why we left voluntarily. because they wanted to rent out the 2 floors to a company called Key Assets for a 5-year lease. After 2 years, Key Assets left. Why did they leave? Excluded us or other people. And finally, we used to volunteer in the museum. Not only the CN pensioners, Greenland pensioners, and other citizens. 2 years ago, we were told not to volunteer here anymore. And with the CN, the company, the CN company, every time a CN pensioner volunteers 40 hours, they deposit $500 into the museum. Now that's up to $2,200 a year. Still.
That's why they didn't want it.
We don't volunteer there anymore for over 2 years. So that's all I'm saying. Nobody consulted us. We're a big stakeholder in this building, this museum. I worked in here for a hell of a long time. So this means a lot to us. Thank you for your support. Just because we've been wondering here today, there's thousands more that will be here. Our pensioners are all up to 80s and 90s. So they take them out there, but we got the support early. We're writing the city councilors, they know. So thank you very much once again.
And my friend Ken Perway wrote about the streetcars to St. John's. And I have to say, I worked here for a few years in the early 60s, and my brother worked there. My father was there for 44 years. And to see what's happening to this building is a crying shame. Half the people on council never rode a train before their life. They don't even know what it's like. I said before in our last meeting that it's not personally against Mayor Breen or any of the councillors. But some of the practice are, what's next? What did they even close next? Like I said in my post on Facebook, shut down the Confederation Building, built in 1959. Shut down the better government house, that was built in 1850. So we allow them to do this, what's going to happen next? Every single place they turn it into a business. I implore everybody, anybody that has anything to do with council, to put the pressure on them to keep this building open. I'd like to debate it. We don't know, we never seen a paper. Mayor Breen said it cost $200,000 to run this place. Give me a break. The building is owned by them, you had to pay rent. So why are you worried? I'm sure the lighting and everything, all the artifacts were donated by myself, the PMC and Pension Association and other people. How does it cost $200,000? So I don't know where he pulled that one from. Anyway, just to let you know, I'm dedicated to this cause, same with JP, same with John Landon, same with other people here, Wayne and Graham, with the CN pensioners. Let's keep it on. Thank you.
Organizing on the docks here in 1890. That was the same year that Robert G. Reed came over to look at building a railway here. I think the railway got finished in 1898, the main track. And that was after we had a fire in 1892 and a bank crash in 1894. When the railway was finished, our island had some of the same economic problems that we're facing today because of Muskrat Falls. But because of the railway, we managed to climb out of that. And the LSPU has been here for 117 plus years, and the building is historical significance to us. And we back the CN pensioners and the Railway Museum Association, and we're going to fight to keep this open.
group, Ms. Guller.
Hi there. So when I did my archaeology degree about 15 years ago, this museum and the exhibits in this museum were what were brought up to us as the gold standard of what you want to do if you're setting up a museum and an exhibit, because we had community engagement from the stakeholders, from the pensioners, from the city, from the province, and you know, the way that this is set up, that it's interactive, that, you know, and it can't be moved. For those of us who've been in here, we know we have railway cars on the original platform. This exhibit can't be moved. That's what makes it special.
Yes!
Yes! Yes! And they told us when we were doing cultural resource management, that this is the gold standard. This is the kind of museum, when you're given the chance to set something up, that this is what you do. This is the kind of thing we need. Also, this is one of the few tourist attractions in downtown St. John's that is fully accessible. Somebody with mobility issues cannot go up into Cat Town, but you can go in here and you can enjoy it. So this needs to be preserved and to continue being an example of what you do and how to do cultural resource management and museums correctly.
Yeah.
I'd like to invite Tim Dim to come up and say a few words. There's a railroad boy, a couple of them here today. Come on. Here they are.
So I'm the MHA St. John's Center, which is on the other side of this road. And it's interesting, my brother and I, last year were celebrating with the city 100 years of the 100th anniversary of CN with the city, planting trees up near his field. The city was there, the mayor was at the event, at the rooms. We're celebrating 101 years by shutting it down.
Shame.
That says everything. That's about priorities. As for the West End, I attended Holy Cross, as did my brother. We're Holy Cross boys. When it was up here on Alexander Street, Patrick Street, I can tell you that the railway stretched from here over to the Waterford River, up to the Southside Bridge. Coming down when Dad was working here, it was a trip on the train. We saw the rail yard, the turntable. This is just a vestige of it. So it's very much an important part of the West End. It was my West End. This was the West End for me growing up. You'll see a plaque there. It's to the sea. It's commemorating CN. So this building is not an asset. It's not an asset. It's a legacy. Because I know that most of the artifacts that came in here were donated by CN pensioners. They didn't look at these artifacts as assets, but they were a legacy. They were part of their livelihood. And yet, I hear in the railway, the body is not even cold, and we're already looking at how we can distribute them across the province. So I think in many ways, it needs to be looked at. It dishonors the memory of the people who set this up, such as my father, our father, who worked on the railway. And I really think you can have both. That's the creative way.
Yeah.
I agree, but I agree with this, and that's where we'll at. But right now, this is part of I'm a townie, a corner boy, as is my brother. This was our heritage right here, right now. But I agree, it should be part of the province, but right here, this is the city, very much part of my livelihood, my background. Here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to speak, brother. We never came here to speak. We came here to support. But I guess we've been asked to say a few words. I have absolutely no problem speaking up on this issue. And like my brother said, we grew up in the West End. We went to school here at Holy Cross. We'd come down after school. We'd get on the work train with our father. We'd drive back and forth
in the yard until we drove home with it. That's what we did. And someone mentioned earlier today, there's people in council, and there's people here who never rode the train. So how do you talk about something as important to us as this building and what's contained in it? Suzanne spoke about the gold standard. I have some experience, have been in municipal politics, being on Council of Paradise. And here I am now supporting the people of Council of Paradise as an MHA. And what I look at, and I consider myself an elected official. I don't like the word politician, but I elected official to work for the people who elected me. And the gold standard, I think, for us, I see John Abbott here, my brother Jim, so we got essentially all parties represented here, but the gold standard for us, as I see it, is openness, transparency, and accountability. And that goes right down to all levels of government. So the real surprise for me, actually this is the second biggest surprise for me when it comes to the railway, because the first one was when we tore up the tracks. I could not believe it. The rides we took out to our aunts in Holyrood, get on the train will stop, you get off. They pick you up on the way back. We'll never see that again, other than in here. So I'll go back to openness, transparency, and accountability. Like many of you here, all we heard was, end of January, she's closed down. No consultation with the stakeholders, no consultation or discussion with the people who have put so much into this. The railway being, and the coastal boats being our lifeline. Right. Being our lifeline. Think about it. And now we're going to turn it into an office building. I don't think anyone got a complaint with trying to make something generate revenue. I don't think we got a complaint with that. But there's actually, in my mind, there's been no thought gone into this. We have our beautiful museum on the bottom. We've got 2 empty floors. You can't generate 200 grand in revenue by renting those or doing something up there. There's options out there which I can't say weren't explored, because we don't know if they were or not. I would assume they weren't explored. So really would like to see, us keep speaking up. I would like to see council come forward, be more open, accountable and transparent in what this decision, how this came about, because nobody knows. Nobody's fully aware of that. So, if we keep doing what we do and keep speaking up, hopefully we'll get some more answers to this, and hopefully we'll be involved in the discussion, because we can't lose this. We can't lose this. This is clear. So look, I appreciate your time.
Was to get down to literally using the tracks. And what I did last summer is I hiked from here. Actually, I left Witless Bay to Port of Basque along the railway track, just to see what it was like to be able to travel right across the province through the railway. But the interesting thing was that the legacy of the railway is from community to community was being diminished because people did not have the resources or capacity to maintain their facilities, unlike what we have here. So we definitely got to maintain this particular facility. And my family roots are in the St. John, so I was a user of the coastal boats back in the 50s and 60s. And again, that is unique to this province. And again, this museum is celebrating that. So I wish everybody well. JP did a great job for a non-public speaker. So keep it up, and we'll be there to support you.
And that was specifically about the ships that sailed, that made up the maritime history of Newfoundland and Labrador. And of course you can't do that without talking about the railway. And I spent the first 20 years of my life riding the railway 3 or 4 times a year. I lived in Corner Group, my grandfather lived in Longford, and we would go Christmas, Easter, summertime. I came to Memorial at University. The only way you could go was by train. And you think that this museum is going to be just obliterated, thrown away. It's disgraceful. I wrote to all the council members. I got a letter from the mayor, but no response from anyone else. I wrote to my MHA, Bernie Davis. I didn't receive any reply from him. But I gave plans. We're all going to be happy when we hear this. But I don't think anyone is going to be happy to lose the museum. So somehow we've got to preserve it. And I don't know where the provincial government is in all this, because it is a Newfoundland treasure. It's not for only responsibility of St. John. This is for all. In 1905, Judge Krause wrote a book, a tourism book, about how you could go to the Humber and go up on the Humber salmon fishing. You went by train. How you could go to Bonavista and Ascension, all these places. And, that is all part of our heritage. It should not be forgotten. No one has asked me to sign a petition, by the way, so if you only have 5,000 names, maybe it's because other people have had an opportunity to sign.
Thank you very much. Change our report, because Dr. Bell brought this up, but he didn't know about the petition either. That's where you'll find the petition. Very good point. Under the first review of the Canadian Environmental Assessment Act years ago, one of the review major points was that true consultation starts at the turn of the protest, not after the fact. We're going to have one that kicked off the first protest. We had 24 people show up after 12 hours. We've got 3 times that here today. Well done. This is how we changed. They changed. They backed off. They're going to meet. That meeting, they have to know that they have to come to a compromise that keeps this here. So we have to keep the pressure up. Here you go, Ken.
I have to get out of the sun a little bit. I just want to give you maybe a little bit bigger picture from what I have been thinking about. I'm really glad there's someone with archaeology experience here, because I told some folklorists 15 years ago, I said, folklore in the province can be as big as archaeology was 20 years ago. Definitely. And I fell flat on the floor, but I still believe that with all my heart. It just hasn't been done here yet. So trying to figure out how I can participate in this has been a little difficult. But I'm just going to tell you what I'm working on, which is things like that. And I think that the city is really disrespecting all union workers in the city from this end of town. I don't understand it, because the history of this railroad includes workers and management. The whole infrastructure is railroad. That history is not understood anymore as a kind of a regional transportation system. We don't think of ourselves as a region, but we are. I just complained to a publisher in Halifax who had a map that went from New England to Nova Scotia, but the title was Atlantic Canada. And I thought, that's it. That's exactly what happens here. One of the things that I am I can't believe is that I just found out that Canadian Heritage has an entire set of regulations just for railway museums and railway buildings. So I'm pretty sure there's been a breach of contract somewhere. I really am. I think there are legal issues here. We could still use a lawyer or 2 or 3 just to go over some of those regulations. That's what I'm working on. The other thing I just want to add is that I worked in the States, and I have a lot of friends in the field of folklore, quite frankly, all over the world. And it hasn't taken much, even a week, for me to get in touch with them. Everybody who gets an email from somebody else should be printing those out. Everybody, because that'll double the petition. Even if they don't sign a petition, we'll have all that documentary evidence in support of the museum. And anybody who knows any other museum who's ever been anywhere else who's seen one should tell us about that too on one of the Facebook pages. So I'm gonna just keep trying to find strategies and things that we can do really quickly. someone told me that the city's thinking about taking over at the end of January. But you know what? That's a lot of time to get some things done. It really is. Everybody's at home. You have to stay home. And, you know, it's remarkable that we even have to be here. But it's a perfect opportunity to advertise ourselves anyway. Perfect. And that'll only bring more support, even from outside the province. And that's kind of what I'm doing. So it's great to see the numbers double, and it was still another quick announcement. So congratulate yourselves for everybody for really just coming out here and following through.
John Kelly. My father grew up, I grew up in a railway family. My dad was with the railway until I was 5 years old. We were on my family I remember was, and I was only young, but I still remember we were on the last ride of Newfoundland. And those are treasured memories by me. I grew up with pictures of the railway all over the house, books of the railway all over the house. And it was really a wonderful thing. And then when I came here and I saw this railway museum when it first opened, I thought, what a beautiful thing to have here. You know, it's a real treasure. As a young person, I came here and we had kids' birthday parties here, my own kids, and just a wonderful resource to have. And ever since then, I've been wondering why they haven't promoted this railway more, this railway museum. You know, the only thing I've ever recall seeing is a brochure somewhere in a hotel lobby that never gets looked at that says we have this museum here, but nobody knows about it. And then you wonder why it's not making money. So if you're not promoting it, if people don't know it's there, then don't expect it to start making money. It's not going to happen. So the management of this thing has failed. And I don't mean the people working in here. I mean the overall management of it in terms of looking at the promotion of this and trying to build something and build on this treasure that we have. It's just been very disappointing. And so I was infuriated when I heard that it was going to close. I thought, what a poor decision. Without talking to anybody, without explaining what your thoughts are, and it almost seemed like this was an accidental blurt out in the media that they were trying to keep under wraps. And I'm engaged, you know, I follow the Engage website on the city, and I've never seen anything about this. And so it's not there, so they have a tendency to want to put up things that they've already decided on and ask you for your opinion after, and that's not acceptable. But the other thing that really infuriates me about this is that, you know, when you have a resource like this, and people just decide, you know, to unilaterally make a decision to close it down, it just, to me, it's unspeakable, you know? I mean, it's disrespectful, it's just, I can't say it enough, it's infuriating. And so I've made my life out of public consultations, I'm a public relations person, and to see this happen is just something that, you know, I'm so glad that people have come out here today. I was afraid that nobody was going to show up, but this is really encouraging, and I want to thank you all for coming out, and I hope you all can keep this going and change their minds. Thank you.
The railway is in my soul. As a little boy, I can remember watching the passenger train arriving home. My dad introduced me to it, and that's why I was such a love. In the 70s, I watched the trains go through my grandparents' backyard in St. George's, and in the 80s, I actually rode the mixed trains over the gas houses 5 times. So I just want to say it's wonderful to see everybody here, but good things can happen when good people work together. And if we don't give up the fight, I think we can get this decision reversed. That's all I want to say.
Thanks for coming out and giving me the chance to speak, Daryl. This is just a horrible decision. I mean, the Newfoundland Railway is such a big part of our culture in Newfoundland and Labrador, and there's been so much lost over the years. Like, I mean, you look at, I worked at the Transport Museum in Pitt Park in 94, 95, 96. There was, you know, the Fogo observation car was tossed out to the dump. Coach 768 was cut in half and put down here, so it's good that it's been repurposed, I guess. Mail car 232 was thrown away, that went to the dump. And as you know, Locomotive 900 and Donning Car 176 went to Clarenville, where they got a great operation and it's in good hands there. And then Boring Park, you know, years ago, the Avalon, Robert Reed's old car was scrapped, you know. There's all kinds of places in the United States where these things are cherished and repaired, but the city's like, no, it's too expensive. they scrapped the caboose that was there. Now I think the caboose that was there was actually like a mainland car, so I don't know. Anyway, then they scrapped another car, the baggage car, I believe. The mail car made it down here, and there is a passenger car that was on the waterfront that made it here. And locomotive 906 from Barron Park also made it here. So all this work, all this effort over the years that the pensioners put in, and all these people, it's just being thrown away without any public consultation, without any like asking for help. Like you look at places like Avondale, Clarenville, and Cornerbrook, they were all like, okay, we need to do something good here. Let's talk to the residents. What can we do? We need help. They all stepped up, and they all have great operations. St. John's, what are they doing? Nothing. They're putting out this statement saying, oh, it's costing money, that's it. And I mean, anything else in the city, like these ridiculous roundabout thing at Rollins Cross, the bike lanes, the walking paths, like anything. Like there's all kinds of engagement, talking, listening to the people. And, it's a people's road. It's a people's railway, and the people are speaking up because they're pissed off that these elected officials, a handful of people that are going to be out of office in a few years and doing whatever it is they're going to do, we're going to be left to follow. No heritage, no railway. It's just awful. And to be honest with you, Daryl, I'm really happy that so many people came out, because it's hard to get people motivated, and with the pandemic and then Christmas and stuff like that. And but I've been hearing like all week, I've been flat out with work, just Facebook messaging you, saying with you with the petition and your efforts, and it's just incredible we have to do this. Like there's so many solutions, and the secrecy of City Council is just disgusting. Like, to not come out. I mean, they were talking about budget cuts for Metrobus, fire, snow clearing. They came out and they were like, okay, all right, well let's talk about it. Nothing with this. Shag you, shag the pensioners, shag the railway, shag the heritage. And we've had enough giveaways over the years from Churchill Falls or fishery or railway. And this might be a small thing to them, but it's a huge thing for people like you and I and everyone else that's here. And this is not the end of it. There's going to be more. And I really feel like the city got a good chance to back up. And I mean, make it right. Just make it right.
But personally, in my opinion, I'm going to be repeating much of what has already been said. But the city in taking over the museum doesn't take just responsibility of the building, but for keeping that collection together. And going down to the east, this is a wonderful museum. It breaks my heart to think that we lose something like this for all of the intangible value. It's not intangible, we feel that's right. Please keep the museum open. I'll hold your sign.
Jenny was a little girl, she only dreamed of trains. She never played with dolls or lacy kinds of things. Jenny counted boxcars instead of counting sheep, 'cause she could go anywhere when she went to sleep. All she ever talked about was getting on to ride. She was living in another time, you could see it in her eyes. And every day after school she'd head down to the track, waiting for the train that was never coming back. Jenny dreamed of trains when the night time came. Nobody knew how she made it come Jenny dreams of trains. The depot's been boarded up, the rails have turned to rust. There hasn't been a train through here since the mill went bust. No one believed her when she said she heard the train. Said she was just a little girl acting kind of strange. But Jenny dreamed of trains. But when the night time came, nobody knew how she made it come true. Jenny dreamed of trains. Jenny laid a penny on the track one day. In God we trust. She walked away. The very next morning, all that she could find was a little piece of copper, squashed flatter than a dime. Jenny dreamed of trains. When the night time came, nobody knew how she made it come true. Jenny